This is the OpenClinica Training Module 3, and we're going to focus on data entry. In this session, we have certain learning objectives that we want to achieve. We want to be familiar with the data entry controls, learn how to enter, save, edit, and delete data, deal with missing data, enter discrepancy notes, and remember discrepancy notes are queries, mark a CRF as complete, mark an event as complete, and view the audit history. The first part of this training will deal with data entry key concepts. And in this part, we're going to add subjects in OpenClinica, describe what is an event, and how and when to schedule an event. We're back at the subject matrix, and I want to point out some things that you might have already remembered from the introduction. And that is adding a new subject. You can add a new subject from the tasks. Here's add a subject. Or you can add a subject from this menu item, add new subject. But remember, many times for QPS studies, randomization is carried out by an external system, and the OpenClinica database is pre-populated with the subject IDs. So before starting a subject, check your user manual and with the project manager to find out if you will need to add new subjects. In many cases you will not. Now we're going to start the data entry process. Before we go into entering data though, I want you to remember that the CRFs are divided into events. An event is an equivalent to a study visit. In order to enter data into an event, the event must be scheduled. In other words, we have to give it a start date. Okay, let's set up a subject and create a start date for some events. Let's enter this subject ID, apply the filter, and here we have a subject with 3 events. And if you remember your icons right here, that means it hasn't been started, it hasn't been scheduled. None of these events have been scheduled. So let's schedule this event. Let's click on it, the screening event, go down here, click on schedule, up comes the schedule screen. You can see today's date has been added. If this is the incorrect date, you can click on the calendar and enter the correct date, or you can enter it manually. For this particular study, we don't need to enter hours or minutes. Most studies you don't. And you don't need to enter an end date. So now let's schedule this and proceed to data entry. Click on this. And here we have the screen for enter or validate data for CRFs and screening. Remember, we're in the screening visit. Here we are at the subject's record, and in order to start entering data, we have our 3 action items here, action icons, and we want to click on this one which says enter data. This, remember, is just view data, and if you enter data when you're on view, nothing will be saved. The save button for the CRF form will not show up, and this is for printing. So let's click on this. Here's the demographic case report form, the CRF. You can see all the fields that data needs to be entered. And if we click here, we can see the header, which once again gives a summary of the subject. And if we had any queries, you'd be able to see them here. But let's close that up. So let's start with the first field. Let's click on this. And that field is a visit date, so let's put that in. You can see I use the calendar to enter the date, but you could also enter it manually, but you have to enter it in the same format. The numeric day, hyphen, month, hyphen, year, 4-digit year. Let's click on Inform Consent. Give it the same date. Hour, I'll type in. And here's a drop down for female, drop down menu for female. Date of birth, I can go here. Now, whoops, here's the year. Now I want to move that back. So you click here to move through the years. And let's pick out the 11th here. And ethnicity is also a drop down. Here we have an option menu. Let's select that. And for smoking, let's put never smoke, because then I can skip the next questions. And for units of alcohol, let's just enter anything. So now we have the data. And you can see the yellow background where I entered all the data. That means the data has been entered but hasn't been saved. So let's save the data. Whoops. We have missing data. And that's because age has to be calculated, but I made it so to calculate it I have to click on it. So now I clicked on it and the age has been entered. So now let's save it again and see if that error message goes away. And this brings us back to something that the real-time edits that are programmed into a CRF are fired when you hit the save button. Then you'll see all the errors, or hopefully no errors. But let's hit save now. Everything worked correctly. There's our icon, and notice the color. It's yellow. It means data processing or data entry is still in process. Well, you probably thought we filled in everything, but we didn't hit complete data entry. So let's go back. Let's click Mark CRF Complete. It gives me a warning that I'm marking it complete. Now I'm hitting Save. And now the icon has turned green, which means the CRF is complete.